So hi, my name is Manoj and welcome to this webinar on future of DevOps and MLOps. Uh, let's begin. I already see that people have already started asking your questions and let's see. There are answers within this particular presentation. Those things. So I hope that you all guys are aware about the why we need a DevOps in today's world. There are four main reasons that every organization is looking for with respect to DevOps, which is the quickly, deploying the software, reducing the time in terms of iterations, increasing the quality of your product. That means that the issues, bugs, security flaws are caught easily and iteratively. Faster innovation cycles. Because of this quicker deployment, it is possible that you can deploy your new features very easily on this particular aspect. And the last one is the reduction in the suspension of an operation. So there is a less downtime with respect to the DevOps because your operations are also integrated along with your developments. These are the four main reasons. However, there are other reasons which are there. Some of them are very simple, which is the collaboration and trust. You have to work with an integrated team across the functions, and that breaks down the silos, improves the collaboration and trust. Faster publication of ideas and smarter way to work together because everything is automated partly. It accelerates the solution timing and better management of unforeseen work with respect to reliability and risk and management related issues. These are good with respect to the DevOps and their benefits. But then the very basic question is that what is DevOps? The DevOps is a marriage between a development and operations, which are previously the two separate activities. The development is essentially with respect to how you want to, the code, how you want to plan your development activity, how you want to code, how you want to build, how you want to test. And once you are comfortable with this development activities, how do you want to operationalize this development activities with respect to release, deployment, operating of this particular thing and monitoring continuously. So DevOps combines this entire cycle of development and operations together using the automations. And there are ways that this automation is performed across the different service providers, tools, organizations. But in general, this framework at a top level remains the same. Let's look at that how DevOps really works. If you are a developer, you check in your code in the source control. Once the new code has been checked in, the integration gets triggered automatically. And then based upon this integration, there is a continuous integration which is automated using Jenkins and tools like this. And based upon that, it builds a particular thing, tests also, and checks that everything is okay or not, and then transfer this to the release management. And what happens during release management is that this build goes for the QA and QA phase where the quality assurance is being done, staging phase, and then the review and approval happens. And if everything works fine, then it gets deployed into the production environment. And this is the way that the DevOps really works. So I see that there is one question here, which is with respect to that. Can you shed more light on how to automate the MLOps pipeline using the likes of Power Automate and or AZURE DevOps? This I will cover it when we go into the MLOps little later. So this was a very quick overview about the DevOps related aspects. Now, what I want to take is that this was really good, which was working fine. But what happens when you jump when you are doing a development along with an ML application? And that is where the MLOps comes. And MLOps has in the three circles, as you can see. There is an ML, there is a development, and there is an operations. In the ML stage, you work with the model and data, and development stage, you work with your traditional development things, and in operational phase, you work with traditional operation things. In the very first phase with respect to the ML, You actually do here the experimentations where you understand the business needs, you acquire the necessary data, and you do the initial modeling in order to see that which is the good model which is coming up. Following that, you go to the next step, which is your develop stage. Here, apart from the traditional development, what you do is you do the further modeling and testing to see that whether it is working or not. You look at the continuous integration and continuous deployment aspect of the topic. The next is with respect to operate, where you see that how this newly developed model can be put into the continuous delivery mode. On top of that, how can the data feedback loop is managed? What is the meaning of data feedback loop is that when the model is in operation, all the data which it is processing, it also fed back and being stored in order to further improve it. And then the last one is the system and modeling with respect to operate part. Now, MLOps provides some significant benefit over a normal ML practices as well as the DevOps practices. First and foremost is that it provides a reproducibility and auditability, where we are looking into the code-based approaches. That means you can have entire pipeline which is being coded, your checks which are being coded, your modeling which is being coded, and all the artifacts which gets generated, they are all auditable and tagged. We have already seen this MLOps related things in practice when we are using the AutoML, where the pipeline and everything was automated there. And the artifacts which are generated were also auditable. That means you can really take a look into the artifacts and you can really see that what is happening there. And in the in the Azure AutoML, what we have seen was a more of a visual-like approach. But if you use the SDK, it is possible to get into the code-based approach also. The next benefit of the MLOps is the validation. That means you can have the entire generated model being validated easily using an unit testing and code profiling tools which are integrated in that. Model quality comparison also can be done, that how over the period of time that the model quality has been improved. And the third aspect is minimize the bias and explainability. That means you can build inside the system that testing and things like that, which can easily capture the biases and easily capture how the model is behaving under various conditions. And if need be, the explainability can also be built in. The next aspect is the automation. That means even though you are continuously building your model, you can have a controlled rollout where you can see that at which point and which stage and which kind of a model that you would like to roll out from here. The comparison and model performance is also obvious because you will have a release after release and you will be able to see that how your model's performance is improving from that point onwards. And model drift and data feedback is also possible using the data monitoring thing with which is available. Here is an Azure DevOps, one of the pipeline where how it gets automated. That means as a data scientist, you use Jupyter or PyCharm along with Visual Studio IDE. You will publish a model. Then the app developer can consume a model using this IDE. They can deploy the application using a DevOps pipeline, validate that particular thing, deploy it using a Kubernetes where the end user can really use it. This is a very simple top level view about how the data scientists can work along with app developers and how it gets deployed. If you really want to go into the detail, this is the one aspect of the detailing where we say that we train a model, we package, validate, deploy, monitor, and then it is a continuous thing at the very top. In the bottom side, there are all the tools which Azure DevOps along with an Azure ML works to realize the MLOps, where you have the boards where you actually plan the activities and the things. Then you have a repo where in the Azure DevOps or a GitHub repo where you actually do the coding. And then you can also train your models using Azure ML, and then you have the Azure DevOps pipelines and your test plans, which are again part of the Azure cloud service. And then from that, you can have the Azure DevOps for the artifacts and the pipeline, where also it can work along with your model management. So if you have a model which is pre-trained from some other places, but it is available in Azure ML, you can integrate and deploy that particular artifact of a model here in the deploy phase. And then in the operate phase, you can use Azure ML Compute and Azure Kubernetes Services, AKS and AMCs, in order to deploy your applications and operate them. And then the Azure Monitor can help in order to, look at what the happens with the data, what is the performance of your model, and this gets integrated as a whole. So this is a pipeline which can be utilized along with an Azure MLOps, where you can do the normal development of your application. And if you have an ML models to be integrated along with your application, you can also leverage your Azure ML related parts. So this is the implementation which is possible onto the Azure side. And I hope that answers the question which was raised with respect to how to use the Azure DevOps for the automation parts. And this is the easier view which is given, or rather the overview which is given. There is a code and the pipeline management tools which are also available as a part of an Azure ML services, which can be utilized with respect to this. Now, going into the very interesting aspects, we had in a DevOps, we have an MLOps. But what we have seen is that DevOps is now evolving into the newer version, which we call it as an DevSecOps. What happened is that with this DevOps movement, we were developing and we were deploying, and security was left out, and it was creating a bottleneck. That means for as any enterprise application to be deployed, it needs to go through the security checks, security auditing, security reviews, and things like that. And based upon that, what used to happen that despite of a very high velocity in terms of development and all these things, the applications used to get stuck at the security phase, and it used to ruin all the benefits which we have discussed with respect to the DevOps before. So the new practice which emerged post DevOps was the DevSecOps, where the continuous security was looked into from all the aspects. That means from planning aspect to code to build to test, release, deploy, operate, and monitor. And there were tools which are now developed, which works across all the phases, and they make the lot of tests automated. For an example, there are three kind of checks which are there. One is the static check, which is the static automated security tools, SAST. Then there is a dynamic security tool checks, which are DAST. And then the third one is the IAST, which is interactive. Now, what happens is the static things are used during the build phase, where they just, or before the build phase, just a simple code analysis. They look at the code and see that how the code has any security vulnerabilities. The dynamic one comes post build, where they really see that how the code is behaving, executing, and then try to change certain conditions and see that how it is working. So it's a kind of an intrusive or the pen testing, you can say. And the last one is the interactive testing, which happens into the deploy and operate stage, where this test tools are just simply sitting there and having a webhook inside your applications, and they continuously monitor where the data flow, control flow is going within your application, and are there any security flaws which are there. And based upon that, across all these three kind of tools, they see that any issues are there, and if any issues they find it out, it can be directly reflected into the planning phase for the next cycle to be fixed. That way it becomes automated. Additionally, during the release phase, the compliance checks can also be done with respect to ensure that all the policy related to compliance are things are placed in, not like an access, data privacy policies and things like this. So compliance as a code, security as a code are built-in practices here. And that's where the field is evolving. This is a very fascinating thing, because the moment the security was, the put across the entire life cycle, it has obviously slowed down the release process slower than normal DevOps. However, with this integrated security view, what has happened is that it has become much faster, to push the innovations to your customers. Previously, the innovations were happening, but they were not pushed at the same speed to the customers due to the security, pending security or different things. With this, now it is possible that it can be simply done. For an example, that today it is possible that one of the developer can check in a code, and within the 2 days that code can be seen reflected onto the application. That's the level of speed that we are talking now with respect to security. And these are all the traditional security measures. The interesting thing that I want to talk about is that the security aspects which we have seen with the traditional application is not really the same with the AI and ML systems. AI and ML system faces much more threats than compared to the normal, the application. Because in normal application, you are writing the lines of a code, and then the code gets analyzed, and you can really see the control flow and the data flow and all that aspect. However, with an ML system, you don't have a set piece of a code. You only have a kind of a loose structure, which is populated with the weights, and the decisions are being made based upon the way that the data is being processed. And that brings into the very interesting the security threats aspects. And when you operate an AI or ML system, you have in total like 17 different threats or the failures which are categorized here. And they are at the top layer, they are categorized into intentionally motivated failures. That means somebody is intentionally trying to make the system fail, considered as an attacker who is trying to attack the system. Are the unintended failures, which are like simply happening due to the reason the ML is susceptible to all these failures with respect to the things. For an example, perturbation attack is the way that somebody just tried to put a perturbation, and the classical example is the adversarial things, where the image, if somebody perturbates with a noise, the image of panda becomes the image of something else. Though for the human eye, it remains same, for the machine, it changes. The poisoning attack is with respect to the data, which somebody is purposefully putting a wrong data, and you will consider that as in data drift and try to update your model, and people will try to take a benefit of it. Model inversion is another that kind of an attack where the model gets inverted and somebody can get inside information about the model and that can exploit it. And model stealing, where somebody tries to steal your model. It's like data theft. Here we are looking at calling it as a model theft, and so on like that. There are 11 things. On the other side, on the unintended failures is the side effects, which is like classic case of a bias, exclusions, fairness related issues. However, there are other things that is a reward hacking. That means there is a proven that in the reinforcement learning and other cases that if the goal or reward is given, the system will try to hack that particular reward and try to do faster and faster. One of this example was that when Microsoft deployed their, or rather the Facebook when deployed their chatbots, two chatbots were communicating with each other and they were able to develop their own language because they were able to realize that the communicating in the normal language was much, much costlier. So they hacked the system in order to come up with a new language which only they can understand and nobody else can understand. Those are the kind of reward hacking things. Natural adversarial examples which are also present into the systems or present into the world due to various phenomena. Distributional shift, which is like seasonal shifts. So these are not intended, but it really happens. And there are incomplete testing related aspects where you have not tested all that corner cases. So all this additional security threats which are there, this also has to be considered when we are deploying the ML related applications. And therefore, there is another thing which is coming up into the field, which is called the MLSecOps, where we are looking into the MLOps, and along with it, we are looking into the continuous security aspects. What happens is that your DevOps normally takes care of your traditional security. But as we have seen that the ML system has even bigger security issues on top of that to consider. There is a framework which is coming up where the continuous AI and ML security has looked into all the phases. starting from in a forward path from ML Dev and Ops, and in the backward path with respect to data, which is coming up with respect to Ops, Dev, and M. And this, as a whole, forms the MLSecOps things, which is where the MLOps works with the continuous, the security portions. Now, what is going to happen in the future is that we have in a DevOps, we seen that we have to fix the security issues. So we come up with a DevSecOps. For the DevOps, we realize that if we want to implement within ML systems, we have to consider some of the ML related aspects, and we come up with an MLOps. On top of a traditional security and ML related securities, when we have combined together, we realize that we need to have an MLSecOps, which is the one of the version which you just seen. There is another part that today's ML systems and a lot of system works with an IoT. So there is an emerging trend which is coming up from the DevOps, which is with respect to IoT ops, where how the IoT related development can also happen and operationalize it. And this considers very specific aspects of an IoT. Security of IoT is also a little different subject than the traditional security. So there also it is going into the IoT SecOps. And combine what we see that in the future, we will have a lot of applications which will be using IoT, traditional applications, and the ML algorithms all together. So the future is pretty much going to be the all-in-one ops, where we have to consider the securities from the ML point of view, security from IoT point of view, development and operationalization from the ML point of view, traditional application point of view, as well as the IoT point of view. So this is what I think is going to be the future of MLOps and DevOps, and which is the natural evolution. It is in a far away that it will take a little more time to reach to this particular level, but I see already that the DevSecOps is pretty much operationalized. MLSecOps is picking up some steam, and IoT Ops is also picking up now some steam with respect to the lot of IoT related applications. So that's where it is going to be. So all-in-one ops. And thank you for your patience. And if you have now any questions, I can take it. You can unmute your mic and ask me a question. Happy to answer.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much actually for the very useful and interesting topic. Just going back quickly to one of the slides about that, the integration between ML and the pipeline, the Azure pipeline.
Yeah.
And speaking about this futuristic, first of all, I'm not sure the currently what are the available MLSecOps toolings are there. I'm not sure if Azure does that, but is anyone else did provide it to integrate this MLSecOps?
So MLOps is available. MLSecOps, the security aspects. So Microsoft has a team which is actively working on to get the security related aspects in coming years and release as a part of their Azure Sentinel program, which integrates along with the traditional security.
Okay, good. So until then, I'm just wondering currently, because earlier we had a very good webinar on the integration between machine learning and blockchain.
Yeah.
In order to solve a lot of these security issues. So could we just integrate, I'm not sure if you're aware of the Power Automate, where you could integrate a lot of the blockchain, especially the one provided by Azure, into this pipeline. Could we allow the whole process, the whole workflow pipeline to be in a smart contract where all this monitoring or like for drifts of data, including as well not to allow the inference or hijacking or not. Basically a smart contract, hard code all the policies. Could we do that right now using Power Automate, especially in the last entry point at the bottom of this pipeline?
Yes. So Azure also provides the blockchain as a service. And if you can write your custom codes along with the model registry management, that is the moment you register a model, if you can integrate that registry along with a blockchain as a service, which is also offered as a part of an Azure things, you can start ensuring that your model is registered onto the blockchain. That is the first part. And then whenever you deploy, you can also write in a custom contracts on top of that to take this particular event and really work on that.
So do we suggest, should we wait for Microsoft to release their MLSecOps, or could we start doing our own automation?
I suggest that if it is right now, you are really pressed against the time. I suggest you to start doing it on your own sites at the beginning. However, the moment the Microsoft team launches their entire services, you can see that how you can migrate it. But as I said, that it will take at least a couple of years from now.
Okay, that's fine. Very, very good. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. So guys, you can give your feedback about the session also. Meanwhile, when we are discussing your questions, here is, you can open the menti.com and put up this particular code and give your feedback about the session. Yeah, any other question anybody have? Okay. Guys, I encourage you to ask a question if you have any, and give your feedback, which will be really helpful. Yeah, and I will share the recording as well as the presentation slides also. So thank you guys. Thank you for sharing your valuable time with me. It was really interesting to present this particular session. Looking forward. Have a nice day ahead, and be there in the StudyJam in whichever place that you can participate. Thank you. Have a nice day.